Konstantin Makarov is a managing director of StratLink Africa, a research and financial advisory firm. He joins me now live in studio. Mr. Makarov, earlier in April, you argued that you expect the Kenyan shilling to remain in a fairly tight band between 90 and 93 shillings to the dollar in the near term. Do you still stand by that number?
We do. In the short term, we do expect the shilling to hover around the 93 shillings to the dollar mark. In the long term, however, we do see the shilling slowly moving to in the band of 95 to 96. Having said that, that's in the next 6 to 24 month time range. And overall, Kenya does have a very strong macroeconomic picture. I think there is a lot of emphasis on what's happening with the shilling, and not enough attention is being placed on the positive impact and the positive development of the local economy. Kenya has a whole lot going for it, and I think what we're seeing with the shilling is a combination of both a very strong dollar and a very healthy economy, which is calling for a whole lot of imports to be imported, which has, as you mentioned correctly, an effect on the current account deficits.
Indeed, let's focus on one of the things, however, that the Kenyan government can and ideally should fix: tourism. We've seen an increase in the frequency and the total fatalities from the attacks that have simply ramped up since 2013. Government's response, however, simply has not kept up. Given the decline in tourist traffic that we've seen, how big a hit should we expect to the dollar-shilling rate based on tourist traffic and revenues alone?
I think that the issue of tourism has already been priced into the market. If you look at our models, what we're assuming is a fairly flat earnings from the tourism sector, possibly taking a small dip, but that is already reflected in the market today. I think everybody has accepted that the tourism is a challenge. We see the Kenyan government putting a lot of emphasis on reviving that sector, but for all of our assumptions, we're assuming same levels as the year before.
So just to clarify, in your models, in your analysis, tourist traffic, tourist revenue essentially has bottomed out, more or less?
Correct.
Okay, let's move on to remittances. These have, of course, provided quite a bit of support to the Kenyan shilling in increasing magnitude since 2009. Given what happened on the 7th of April, the shutting down of the accounts for about 13 or 14 hawalas, what effect will that have on the dollar-shilling rate as well?
I think there's a short-term effect, and I think there is a overreaction, a short-term knee-jerk reaction to shut down some operators. I think what we're hoping, and we are cautiously optimistic, that some of the same operators will reopen. I think the burden of proof will be on those operators to confirm to the Kenyan government that their activities are completely legitimate, and that once they do that, I'm fairly certain that most of them will be reopened.
Indeed. One final question for you, Mr. Makarov. Between the factors we've discussed here, stronger American dollar, imports are still growing faster than exports, and here we have an economy that signed a standby credit facility with the IMF, but the exchange rate is still essentially heading south. What's the utility of having this facility? Is it providing value for money to the Kenyan economy?
It is. I think it provides the necessary cushion and the necessary emergency fund to draw from if things do go awry and if there is a confluence of unfortunate events. But having said that, I'd like to focus a bit more on the positive side. If you look at most of the major currencies in sub-Saharan Africa, the Kenyan shilling is actually quite strong. We expect it to outperform its peers. If you look at South Africa, the rand has depreciated over 8%. If you're looking at in Nigeria, we're looking at a 20% depreciation. The cedi has fallen almost 10%. So amongst its peers, the Kenyan shilling is quite strong. We anticipate it to, even though it will depreciate, it will outperform in the region.
Indeed. We'll have to leave it there for the time being on a positive note. Konstantin Makarov, Managing Director, StratLink Africa, there with us in studio.